Hello, FlossTube. It's been a while. Things kind of got a little crazy for me because there was some transition time for my kid between school and day camp, and one of my grandfathers had his 90th birthday party, and it was kind of a big affair, and my aunt said, "Hey, why don't you bake the cake? 'Cause you're good at baking things. And that way we won't need to worry about whether or not a cake we buy from a professional baker is vegan or not." And so I said, "Okay." So it's been kind of crazy. Also, I have a client who's going to have a baby any minute now. Well, perhaps any minute. Who knows? Because babies don't care about due dates. And really, why should they? So, how are ya? Good? Good. Oh yeah, this do is the patented Julicious. I've needed a haircut for like 4 months and it's summertime, so I'm keeping it off my neck because it's friggin' hot. Yeah, so that's why it looks extra bad. Let's just do some stuff. I have 2 finishes and a couple of whips. And then we're going to do some tags. Okay. Let's go. I finished. Actually, I'm going to show you that second because it's awesome. Where did I put it? So, you may find this hard to believe, but I can be a little bit scatterbrained and absent-minded sometimes. I know it's hard to believe, but it's true. Yeah. So I was making a Father's Day card for my dad, and for some reason, my brain kept telling me, it's like, oh, there are like 8 weeks in June. You don't have to mail it until, you don't have to put it in the mail yet. And then on Saturday, someone was like, yeah, so Father's Day's tomorrow. And I said, what? Shit. So I finished this, that was something falling down. This was supposed to be on my dad's Father's Day card. But it's not, because I got so behind for really no clear reason. It says best dad ever, and I like it. I think he's gonna like it. I told him yesterday, like, hey, I made this for you, but I'm an idiot, and he's like, just mail it whenever, because he's the best dad ever. It was a pretty quick stitch. This was from the May issue of Cross Stitch Crazy, which is a UK publication, but it's available in the US. I don't know if it's available, excuse me, I almost burped. I don't know where else it's available, like if you can get it in Australia, New Zealand, other places in the world. But yeah, they had a whole bunch of cards, or card designs. So I did this one. I think the last video I showed you, I also did a happy birthday one for my grandfather. I did remember to give that one to him. I'm not a total loser. So yeah, I'm going to put this over near where the cardstock is. And then my Fibery Friends sampler is all done. Can you see? Last video, I know I was having trouble holding things up high enough so the camera could see them completely, so I'm trying to be more mindful of that this time. So it's done. Had a couple of mistakes I had to fix, but fortunately they're pretty easy fixes. This was very, very motivating because each little component of it felt like a mini finish. This was my first time working on linen, so I'm super stoked, and I'm really proud of myself. I think it turned out beautifully. I'm not sure how I'm going to finish it yet. I'm thinking, since it's special, it's my first time using linen, maybe I'll frame it, but I'm not sure yet. So it's just DMC floss. This is 28 count linen crystal Chablis from, I think this is Picture This Plus. I think it came with the kit. Oh, it's Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery, if you couldn't tell. But yeah, yay, done, hurrah. Love, 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 love. Yeah, that's kind of, I have a couple of new starts, which are also WIPs, to show you. Those of you who are in the Stitch Mania group on Facebook know that, where am I going to put this? Put it over here. There was an Orange is the New Black stitch along, and did I forget the pattern downstairs? Yeah, I did. Well, in my previous video I said that I was going to do a biscornu, and it was really cool, an orange linen with some Weeks Dye Works floss. And you guys are going to be so proud of me how much of this I got done. Yeah, total fail. This is really hard. It's really hard, dude. It's 35 count linen. 2/2. I need more light, and I need stronger magnifiers. I took Organic Granny's advice, thank you, Lori, and got myself just a pair of drugstore magnifiers, just like a 1.75. And for working on this, it was perfect. For a 35 count, I think that might be enough magnification. I just need a stitching setup where I can actually clamp my IKEA bendy light to, and I live in a 100-year-old house that we don't have a lot of outlets, and the outlets we do have are being used. So I think this is going to go in a, I'm going to have to set this aside for a while. Yeah. The linen feels lovely, and Weeks Dye Works is fun. It's kind of hard to see the variegation. Well, this particular shade, Molasses, doesn't, I think the variegation is very subtle because it's mostly, dark browns. But, yeah, that's what I did for the Orange is the New Black stitch along. But, hey, it's all about the people, right? Right. And what I'm currently, like, tunnel visioning on right now is I purchased a wedding sampler, because my partner and I will have been married 10 years. Will be. Our 10th anniversary is in July. And this is a Stitch Rovia pattern. It's a digital pattern, so I have a photo of of what it will look like finished, sort of, on my phone. And, oh, that's not going to work at all, is it? No, that's, maybe. There we go. That looks terrible. But you get the idea. Yeah, I need to think about different ways to show digital patterns. So I have changed a few things. I am changing the Mrs. to Ms. because I ain't nobody's Mrs. And the flowers, instead of pink with blue little buds in the middle, I chose a yellow with the pink, the same pink as in the pattern, in the middle, because my wedding bouquet had yellow roses. And 1,000 thank yous and hugs to Coffee Stitcher for helping me figure out how to do some color changes. We got married when we were in our early 20s. We had just graduated from college. We were super poor. Our entire wedding, like the entire thing, like clothes, flowers, food, venue, everything was like $2,000. Total shoestring. I wore a gold dress, and he wore his coat, his suit jacket was bronze. And I kind of had wanted to incorporate those colors into this. I had mentioned this to Coffee Stitcher, but I was thinking of totally changing a lot of the colors to sort of match the colors, like other colors that we had. I mean, we didn't have a wedding party, and so I didn't have official colors, but the icing on our wedding cake was this really pretty sage green, and I was wondering, instead of doing blue on the banner, if we could do that, but then we'd have to fix the big flower at the top of the piece, and I thought, you know what, I think it would just get too busy. I just want to have the little touch. I'll just do the little touch with some metallics, and I'll change the flowers, and that'll be special. But I didn't know what to do with the metallics. And Coffee Stitcher suggested, hey, you know, the letters for the Mr. and Ms. have some, you know, they look three-dimensional because they have sort of a shadowy effect. Why don't you, for the Mr., have the sort of shadow be bronze, and for the shadow on the Ms., gold? Brilliant. Why didn't I think of that? Because I don't think of things that way. So thank you, Coffee Stitcher. That was awesome. So this is what I have so far. Can you see it? Kind of. I'm liking it so far. This is on 28 count, just plain old basic white even weave I picked up at Joann's. DMC and Kreinik. So this is what I'm going to be focusing on for the foreseeable future. A few words about metallics. And I know I am not the first person to expound on metallic threads. Mrs. Milky Bar Kid said once in a video that, in her opinion, and what I like about Mrs. Milky Bar Kid is she's very aware that she has rather posh tastes, but she's not snobbish. And she's very much do what you want, use what you like, use what you have the means for, just have fun. But she did say, having said that, in her opinion, the best place for DMC metallics is in the trash. My advice to you is listen to Mrs. Milky Bar Kid. I purchased some DMC gold because well, first of all, I was impatient. And that was my first mistake. That is often my first mistake, is being impatient. Also, I thought, you know, hey, this is on a spool. It's not like DMC cottons where it's in a little hank, or skein if you prefer. So for some reason, I rationalized that to think, well, this might not split so much and cause so much grief. So I bought it, having never used metallics in my life, having absolutely no idea what the hell I was talking about. I had to buy a Kreinik for the bronze because this was the only company that had a bronzy color that I liked. This is a fine braid number 8. I forget what the name of it is. It's like metallic bronze or something. Or I could look at my 1-2-3 stitch receipt and figure out what the actual name of it is. But yeah, this was pretty much the perfect shade of bronze. So these are what I used for my wedding sampler. Use a Kreinik. Use a treasure braid. Find Rumpelstiltskin and give him some straw and your firstborn and have him spin something. Anything but DMC. Okay? This was a nightmare. The only reason I still have it in my possession is that I wanted to hold it up in front of the camera and tell you this was a nightmare. Even following everyone, if I hadn't followed advice I asked on Stitch Mania on Facebook, look, I've never used metallics before. Wise gurus, give me advice or warnings or whatever. And everyone said, use smaller strands, shorter strands than you normally would, and use Thread Heaven. If I had not done both of those things, all of this would have gotten like tossed across the room. I would have followed it. I would have jumped up and down on it and spat on it and probably picked it up and chewed on it. Because don't waste your money. I mean, it's like less than $2, but still, just how much DMC in the US can you get for $2? Like DMC cotton. Buy yourself some pretty cotton and just walk right past the DMC metallics and spend a little extra on something that is not going to split and is not going to bunch up in the back, and it's just, oh. Is Kreinik still a pain in the ass? Yes. I'm getting the impression that that is just kind of the way of things. If you're going to be using metallics, they give you a little more grief. It's worth it for the effect. Just take a deep breath, use Thread Heaven, cut shorter strands than you normally would if you were using cotton. Go slow, and you'll be fine. Also, something that I learned that I decided to do pretty quickly is I bought, because Nina of Stitching with a Smile convinced me that I needed one of these things, even though I'm a floss licker. I got one of these just because I find Nina very charming and sweet, and I would love to meet her someday. I'd like to meet many of you someday. But I saw this at Joann's. It's like, Nina, I'm going to buy one, and then I'll have Nina with me everywhere I go. Well, everywhere I stitch. Anyway. Silly. This, I never used it because with cottons and stuff, I just lick the floss and shove it right through the head of the needle. For metallics, if you've never used metallics before, get yourself one of these. Because otherwise, trying to put a metallic thread through your needle without one of these will make you cry. So, yeah. That's Julicious's advice and thoughts on the subject of metallic threads. Yeah. So that's all that I really have on the burners right now. So let's move on. I'm going to do 2 tags. I'm going to finally tackle Fischy Crafts Cindy's unnormal tag. And after that, yesterday, Sonya of catcrazycreations wrote a tag. So after Cindy's, I'm going to do Sonya's. And it'll be fun. And as usual, I have my little moleskin that has the questions written down. I don't think I need any visual aids for these. No. Okay. The unnormal tag. Question number 1. What is the strangest place you have ever stitched? The car. I haven't been doing this for as long as many of you have, and so I haven't really had the opportunity to stitch anywhere strange. I have a feeling at some point I'm going to be able to say a hospital, labor and delivery room. Although generally I take knitting with me to births, just because all I have to remember is yarn and 2 sticks, as opposed to however many flosses and tiny sewing needles and a pattern and fabric and my glasses that I wear with them and blah 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 blah. Knitting is a lot. Well, cross stitch can be very portable, but I find for things that knitting is slightly more portable. Knitting is also a lot more forgiving whenever you have to like toss it and jump up and leap 5 feet in front of you, which at birth, that happens when you have my job. So yeah, strangest place I personally have ever stitched is in the car on a road trip with Vanity. Number 2, what is your next favorite hobby? Should be knitting, except I haven't knit in like 2 months. What else do I like to do? I like video games. I've been having a lot of fun with video games lately. One of my dear friends put up a private Minecraft server, and so a bunch of us have been just poking around, having fun on Minecraft. I like Skyrim. There's going to be a new Fallout game, so I kind of want to redo Fallout. And, you know, the perpetual book. I'm rereading Joan Didion right now, because I felt like I needed an old friend. So I'm reading Lear Magical Thinking at the moment. To smoke or not to smoke? Question 3. I choose not to smoke. Just not for me. I really don't like the smell. I've had a few people close to me die from smoking-related illness. It's just not something that ever really appealed to me. I've noticed something nice about the cross-stitch community. This question does not really cause a lot of drama. And to smoke or not to smoke is definitely a hot button topic for a lot of people. You know, people like, I don't know anyone who is indifferent on the subject. Like, people have views, and I'm really glad that that this question has not caused any strife, because life's too short to fight on the internet. Question 4. What is your favorite social media to share your stitching on? I like the little caveat there, to share your stitching on. Right now it's Facebook, even though Facebook is like my least form of social media. My favorite is Instagram. For some reason I don't share cross-stitching on Instagram very much. I should probably change that. But right now my favorite social media for sharing cross-stitch on is Facebook, specifically the Stitch Mania group. That's the only cross-stitch Facebook group I am a member of currently. I was very briefly a member of a popular in the sense that there were lots and lots of members cross stitch group, and there was some drama there regarding the whole concept of Stitch Mania, and I was a new member, and I opted to just leave because it felt like middle school. And I hated middle school when I was there, and I sure as hell don't want to be, you know, I'm in my 30s. You know, I don't need that. So I opted to leave that Facebook group. And if you know to what I am referring, just let it go. Or, you know, leave a knowing comment, just like, yep, I get you. Because I don't want to badmouth anybody, because I don't actually know that many people in that group anymore, but it was just, this is a hobby, this is supposed to be fun, and it was making it not so fun, so I left. Number 5, do you model stitch, or have you ever? No. I might consider it. It would depend, I guess it would depend on the pattern, on the person asking me to, like whether or not it would feel like a job. I mean, obviously, if someone asks you to model stitch, you don't want to lollygag, because you are, I mean, they need a model for a reason, and they need one rather promptly, or as promptly as one can get, you know. They need it in a timely manner. So it would depend on a lot of things. Yeah. Number 6, to wash or not to wash. This is a little bit of a hot button subject because Coffee Stitcher had a disaster that was thankfully averted due to heroic efforts on his part, and just people offering good advice for how to fix the problem whenever your thread is not your threads are not color fast. Generally, and I think this is just a habit that has carried over from knitting and spinning, I always wash my projects because they just don't feel complete unless they've been washed to me, and that is that's totally 20 years of knitting talking. Totally. I've also only ever used DMC. DMC cotton is color fast. So when I get my hands on maybe some hand-dyed threads, what I will probably do is give them a little soak and let them dry before I even start to stitch with them, just to kind of offset, to try and sort of nip that in the bud before it even happens. But generally, yeah, I wash. Number 7, if you use a digital program, which do you use? I just use good old Adobe. Adobe Reader. Nothing fancy. Last question. What do you do with your FOs? They go in a Ziploc bag in a drawer. Because I'm terrible about making FFOs. That's got to change. But for now, that's what happens to them. Last night, Tara C posted a finishing tutorial for, and it was a no-sew method too, and it looks pretty idiot-proof. For, I think it's the cube method. I will link below. I will link to that video below. But it looks really nice, and it's a nice, just sort of a new way I never would have thought to finish that way, but it looks really cool. I think I might, well, I know I'm going to try it. I might later when I stitch my Cause Factory Sherlock Holmes for my partner, I think I'll finish it that way because it looks really neat. I will link it below. And that is Cindy's Unnormal tag. Thank you so much, Cyndi, Fischy Crafts. That was fun. And now we have Sonya, otherwise known as catcrazycreations, here on YouTube. Check out her channel if you haven't. She's fun. She does a lot of crocheting and cross stitch. She is also learning to knit. She did a great job with her first knitting projects. I'm so impressed. Because my first knitting projects were not that nice, Sonya. And granted, I was like 5, but still. So yeah, this is the Joy of Cross Stitch tag. And I'm sitting here playing with Thread Heaven. I need to stop. Okay, number 1. How did you learn to stitch? When I first learned, like ages and ages and ages ago, my Nana taught me. So I was maybe 7 or 8. And I remember very clearly it was a pillowcase set and there were butterflies along just one edge of it and flowers. And it was a printed, like it was embroidery, but there was also some cross stitch in it. So that, and it was printed on the pillowcases. So that's how I first learned to stitch. And then, because really all I've done is like full crosses and back stitch and French knots. And that I was just kind of self-taught, you know, get the kit, read the directions. So I haven't really been stitching seriously for that long, less than 6 months. So a little bit of help from Nana, a little bit of self-taught. Number 2, have you ever taught anyone how to stitch? Nope. I'm not averse to it someday. I mean, I'm not an expert by any means. I've taught people how to knit. I've taught people how to spin. Well, I've taught one person how to spin. I'm not really confident in teaching people how to spin. Not an expert by any means. So, no, I have never taught anyone how to cross stitch. Number 3, when you stitch, do you like to watch TV, listen to music, or just have quiet? This is highly situational for me. Generally for TV watching, I like to knit because it's more familiar and I can kind of go on autopilot. I can't autopilot cross stitch. So when I am cross stitching, I either need quiet because I have a preschooler and there comes a point in the day where you just need silence or you will go insane. So generally I will either have quiet or I will listen to something. I will listen to an audiobook or I will listen to FlossTube. Question 4. When you use a kit, which company or companies do you like best? See, the Water Dragon is a Janlin, and I like that pattern. It's challenging without being impossible. The symbols on the pattern are very distinct and clear. The pattern itself is very clear, so I like that about them. I've also used a couple of dimensions patterns, and I like them as well. I haven't been doing kits so much lately. I've sort of been buying patterns and fabric and sort of DIY kitting. But I would, you know, if I saw one that I liked, I would do a Janlin or a Dimensions again. I think I have a couple of kits on my 1, 2, 3 stitch wish list. There's a bunch of seashells and one with lemons, so that's neither here nor there. What are your favorite designs to stitch? Still working out what my favorites are. You guys tell me, what do you think my favorites are? I like little whimsical things. I like literary things. I have found myself just when I'm browsing Etsy and 1, 2, 3 Stitch, I'm becoming more drawn to traditional Quaker samplers. I like the monochromatic look that a lot of them have, and I like the shapes and the designs. So I'm digging the old school, more traditional samplers lately. But then again, you know, I also have quite a few mirabilias that I want to stitch, and I have, you know, some, I can't really remember off the top of my head other things I want. I like Clouds Factory and Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery too. So I'm kind of all over the place right now. But if you folks who've been watching have noticed any themes or similarities, let me know. I like to, you know, that'd be cool to see what your opinion, what your observations are. Number 6 already. How do you get ideas or inspiration for your projects? FlossTube, definitely. Stitch Mania group on Facebook, definitely. Also, just kind of, you know, going on to Etsy and 1, 2, 3 Stitch and just browsing. Yeah, that's generally what inspires me. Number 7, how do you store your charts? Right now, they are all in a drawer because I don't have that many. I can see myself, someday I have a small filing cabinet for work stuff. I can see myself allocating part of a filing cabinet drawer to cross stitch patterns at some point. But right now they're just they're just in a drawer because I really don't have that many. Do you stitch for yourself or for others? Question 8. Lately it's been kind of both. With knitting, I am horrible about stitching for myself. I am always making stuff for other people. Like, to the point where if, like, people close to me give me yarn for my birthday or for Hanukkah or something, there's always a little note like, this yarn is for you. For cross stitch, I've stitched, you've seen me stitch things that I've said are going to be gifts for other people, but when I look at my my wish list and my little, I have a little queue of you know, what I'd like to stitch in the relatively near future, and that is all stuff, not necessarily just for me, but all stuff that I want to put in my space, in my home. So for cross stitch, I have been noticing I will stitch for others, but the majority of the stuff I have planned is for me and my family and my home. Number 9. When you take your cross stitch project in the car, to appointments, or for traveling, how do you carry all your supplies? I do the plastic bag method. This is a nice size plastic bag that my Frosted Pumpkin kit was in. And I'm keeping it because it is the perfect size for kitting up something and taking it with me. So this is that's what I do. The fabric, the pattern, the floss go in here. And then I can take it wherever. I can take it in the car, I can take it downstairs, I can whatever. Last question. Did I skip anything? I don't think I did. Wow, number 10 already. What do you enjoy most about stitching? Oh, what do I enjoy most about stitching? Other people have said this in the past. It is so therapeutic. I find just the crafts I do in general are very therapeutic. Also, I just like making things and just the sense of accomplishment that comes with that. Also, it's fun. I mean, if it wasn't fun, I wouldn't do it. There are lots of reasons why but yeah, it is very therapeutic. I like watching watching the project come alive and just, you know, going from just a few stitches in the middle or wherever I happen to start it to, you know, here's, you know, if I'm gonna talk about my my most recent and favorite finished object, you know, it's like, and this was the first time stitching on linen, and, you know, after about 10 minutes of anguish, I had a little heart. And like, hey, there was nothing, and now there's a little heart. And then all of a sudden, there were mittens. And then there was a little clothesline that had socks and a sweater on them. And just watching it all come to life is really gratifying. And at the end of it all, you know, like, I made this. I didn't design it. I'm not that creative or artistic. But I can still enjoy the fruits of someone else's creative labor. And, you know, as far as designing goes. So, yeah, that was a very rambly answer, but that's kind of, that's what I have off the top of my head about what I like best about cross-stitching. So, Sonya, thank you so much for that tag. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I think I'm going to sign off now because I'm starting to sweat and I'd like to turn the AC back on. I will hopefully be able to do a video next week, but if not, soon. And thank you all so much for watching, for subscribing, for commenting. I read every comment and appreciate every comment, even if I don't get around to responding. And so yeah, have a great week, and yeah, hope it's a good one for you.